Welcome to Studio B. I'm joined by political editor Zach Anderson of the Herald Tribune for this edition of Political Corner, and I want to talk about the state legislative session. We're getting down to the halfway mark, maybe even beyond that, and the budget bills are kind of in the works now, both the State House and the State Senate. Where do we kind of stand on that? There's some differences.
Yeah, we're seeing the budgets really come into focus this week. Both the House and the Senate are going to pass their budgets, but they're still going to have to come together and mediate because the budgets in each chamber are very different right now. The House is taking a very austere approach to budgeting with significant cuts to hospital payments and other programs. The Senate it wants to expand funding for environmental programs, for universities. There's a little bit of a dispute over how much surplus funding there actually is right now, but they're going to have to come together and hash this all out in the next few weeks.
Enterprise Florida, Visit Florida, we know that there has been in the House a real push to defund both of these state organizations, but the Senate doesn't seem to agree with that. Is that a win for the governor?
I think that the governor is, he's very passionate about these issues, and he's got a lot of supporters in the Senate. You know, he really believes these are job creation programs. He's campaigned on these, and he's continuing to cut television ads, really hammering home that these are important and going after House Speaker Richard Corcoran over his efforts to defund these programs. This is the biggest sticking point in the legislative session. It looks like the House is going to zero out funding for Enterprise Florida and only have a little bit of funding for Visit Florida, and how they, how the Senate reacts to that and the governor reacts to that is going to say a lot about whether this session ends on time.
And lastly, I want to talk about gambling. There has been some talk of expanding gambling. The Seminoles haven't really weighed in on this. It's kind of too early, but the Senate potentially wants to expand some of the gambling, maybe more slot machines.
Yeah, this is the first time that a comprehensive gambling bill is advancing in both the House and the Senate. They're very far apart, though, in what they want to do. So both chambers are saying that this could be a heavy lift, that it might not make it across the finish line this year. But the Senate wants to expand gambling in some areas to allow slot machines in certain pari-mutuel facilities that don't have them. The House is really dead set against expanding gambling.
Zach, thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks for having me.